Hi, I'm Mabel. And apparently, my baby's birth ranked lower on my parents' priority list than a 2-year-old's sugar high. I shifted in the hospital bed, trying to find a comfortable position while my best friend Tara adjusted my pillows. I still can't believe they're not here, Tara said, checking her phone again. Have they at least texted back? Oh, they responded all right. I handed her my phone, wincing as another contraction built. Read it yourself. Tara's eyes widened as she read the message. Sorry, honey, but we promised Dylan we'd be at his party months ago. Little man would be devastated if Grandma and Grandpa missed his special day. Your sister worked so hard on everything. We'll come straight to the hospital after cake. Labor takes hours anyway. Love you. Are they serious right now? Tara's voice rose an octave. Your sister's kid has a birthday every year. This is your first child. I gripped the bed rail as the contraction peaked. They've always been like this with Emma. Whatever she wants, she gets. I just never thought it would extend to something like this. My husband, Mark, walked in with 2 cups of ice chips. Any word from your parents? They're eating cake while your wife is in labor, Tara announced, handing him my phone. Mark's usually calm face hardened as he read. He stopped himself, looking at me. I'm sorry, Mabel. You deserve better. It's fine, I lied, blinking back tears. It's not like I need them here. No, it's not fine, said Dr. Lawson, who had just walked in for a check. And it's okay to admit that. I've been delivering babies for 20 years, and family support matters. My parents have always favored my sister, I explained as she checked my progress. Emma was the cheerleader, the homecoming queen. I was just there. Did you tell them you were in active labor? Dr. Lawson asked. I called them the minute my water broke this morning. Mom said, "Oh, but what about Dylan's party? Everyone's coming at 11. I mimicked her voice. I reminded her that her grandson was coming today, too. What did she say to that? Mark asked, taking my hand. She said, well, babies take their time. We'll just pop by the party for an hour or 2 and then come straight to you. That was 6 hours ago. Tara's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and grimaced. What is it? I asked. Emma just posted more party pictures. Caption says Mom and Dad having a blast at Dylan's dinosaur extravaganza. The hurt hit me harder than the next contraction. My parents were having a blast while I was in labor with their grandchild. You know what? Mark said suddenly, his voice firm. This isn't about them. This is about us, our family, the one we're creating right now. My nurse, Jenna, nodded approvingly as she adjusted my IV. The people who show up are your real family, and it looks to me like you've got some good ones here. As if on cue, the door opened and my brother Charlie rushed in, looking windblown. Sorry I'm late. Flight from Chicago was delayed, but I made it. He looked around. Where are Mom and Dad? Mark and Tara exchanged glances. At Dylan's birthday party, I said flatly. Charlie's face went from confused to incredulous. You're kidding, right? Emma's kids' party, instead of being here? I nodded, another contraction building. Apparently, dinosaur-shaped cake takes precedence over the birth of their grandson. This is unbelievable, Charlie muttered, dropping his bag and coming to my side. But I'm here, sis. Not going anywhere. Remember when I broke my arm in 6th grade? I asked through gritted teeth as the contraction intensified. Mom left me in the ER with a neighbor so she could make it to Emma's dance recital. And when they missed your college graduation dinner for Emma's housewarming, Charlie added, squeezing my hand. They showed up an hour late, I corrected. Just in time for dessert. Said they couldn't be rude and leave early. Yet they can be rude and skip the birth of their grandchild, Tara observed dryly. Contractions peaking, Jenna warned, watching the monitor. Deep breaths, Mabel. 6 hours later, as I held my beautiful son James in my arms, my parents finally arrived. Where's our grandson? Mom burst in, camera ready, as if she hadn't missed a thing. Dad followed with an oversized teddy bear and a sheepish expression. Right here, I said quietly, not looking up from James's perfect face. Oh, he's adorable. Let me hold him. Mom reached for him. Mark stepped between us. Actually, Mabel just got him settled. Maybe later. Mom's smile faltered. Well, we're here now. The party ran late. Dylan was having so much fun opening presents. Congratulations, kiddo, Dad said, patting my foot awkwardly through the blanket. Sorry we couldn't get here sooner. Charlie, who had been silent in the corner, stood up. Couldn't or wouldn't. Charlie, don't start, Mom sighed. We had a commitment. A commitment? Charlie's voice rose. To cupcakes and party games? While your daughter was bringing life into this world? We promised, Emma, Dad began. You promised Emma, I interrupted, looking at them directly for the first time. Just like you promised to come to my college graduation dinner, but Emma's dance recital took priority. Just like you promised to help us move into our first house, but Emma needed help with her garden that weekend. That's not fair, Mabel, Mom said, her voice tight. We've always supported both our daughters equally. Tara, who had stepped out to give us privacy, poked her head back in. Everything okay in here? Fine, I said, not taking my eyes off my parents. Mom and Dad were just explaining how they support both their daughters equally. We do, Mom insisted. We've always been there for you. Except today, Mark said quietly. The day your grandson was born. We're here now, Dad repeated, looking increasingly uncomfortable. Do you know what I needed today? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. I needed my mother while I was scared and in pain. I needed my father pacing the waiting room. I needed to know that I mattered to you. Of course you matter, Mom exclaimed. How can you even question that? Because your actions spoke louder than words today, I replied. When you had to choose between your daughters, you chose Emma. Again. It wasn't about choosing between you, Dad protested. It was about keeping a promise to Dylan. And what about your promise to me? I asked. When I called this morning, you promised you'd come right after the party started. 6 hours ago. The party just ran longer than expected, Mom explained, as if that settled everything. The nurse came in to check my vitals. Everything looks good, but Mom needs rest. Maybe we could limit visitors for a bit? We just got here, Mom protested. And we've been here all day, Charlie countered. The people who supported Mabel through 14 hours of labor. I think, I said carefully, cradling James closer, that I'd like some quiet time with just Mark and the baby. But, Mom started. I think that's best, Dr. Lawson said, appearing in the doorway. New mothers need rest, not stress. Everyone can visit tomorrow during regular hours. As everyone filed out, Charlie paused by my bed. I'm staying in town for 2 weeks to help. Just say the word if you need anything. We're getting an Uber back to your place, Tara added. We'll have everything ready for when you come home. After everyone left, Mark sat beside me on the bed. I'm proud of you. For having a baby. For standing up for yourself. For recognizing that you deserve better. I looked down at our son. I don't want him to ever feel second best. He won't, Mark promised. Not in our family. The next morning, Emma arrived with a giant balloon bouquet. Oh my goodness, he's gorgeous, she cooed, peering at James. Dylan is so excited to meet his cousin. I managed a tight smile. Thanks for coming. Of course. Though I can only stay a few minutes. Dylan has his swimming lesson at 11. She sat down, smoothing her perfectly styled hair. Mom said you were upset with them? Upset? I repeated. They missed the birth of their grandson for a toddler's birthday party. Emma's smile dimmed slightly. Well, Dylan would have been devastated if they weren't there. He's very sensitive. And you think I wasn't devastated? Giving birth without my mother? You had Mark, she said dismissively, and Mom came as soon as she could. After the cake and presents, I said, after everything important was over. Emma sighed. Mabel, you've always been so independent. Dylan needs his grandparents more right now. And my son doesn't? My voice was steady despite my rising anger. That's not what I meant. Emma glanced at her phone. Mom and Dad are parking. They'll be up in a minute. I need to ask you something, I said. And I want an honest answer. She looked up expectantly. If the situation were reversed, if I had planned a party for James and you went into labor, would you have expected Mom and Dad to skip the party to be with you? Emma opened her mouth, then closed it again. Would you? I pressed. That's different, she finally said. How? It just is. You know how important family traditions are to me. And you don't think the birth of your nephew qualifies as a family event? Of course it does, but what? My son's birth was less important than dinosaur cupcakes? Emma's face hardened. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Mom and Dad. Jealous? I laughed incredulously. I've spent my entire life accepting that I come second in their lives, but my son won't. You're being dramatic, Emma huffed. As usual. Am I? Tell me honestly that if you were in labor and I had a birthday party planned, they would have chosen your party over being with you. Emma's silence was answer enough. The door opened and my parents walked in, breaking the tension. How's our little man today? Mom asked brightly, as if yesterday had never happened. He's fine, I said. Emma was just explaining why Dylan's party was more important than James's birth. Mom's smile faltered. Mabel, we've already explained. No, I interrupted. You've made excuses. There's a difference. Your mother and I discussed this, Dad said stiffly. We made the best decision we could with two important family events happening at once. They weren't equally important events, Mark said from the window where he'd been quietly watching. One was a planned party that could have been rescheduled. The other was the birth of your grandchild. We couldn't ask Emma to reschedule everything, Mom protested. Why not? Charlie asked, walking in with coffee. Hey sis, brought you a latte. Because it wouldn't have been fair to Dylan, Emma said. And what about what's fair to Mabel? Charlie countered. What about what's fair to James? 3 weeks later, I sat in our living room, facing my parents across the coffee table. James was napping, and Mark was working from home in the next room, giving us privacy while staying close for support. Thank you for coming, I said formally. Of course, honey, Mom said, eyeing me cautiously. We've been worried about you. You've been so distant. I've been processing, I corrected her. And I've realized some things I need to say to you both. Dad shifted uncomfortably. If this is still about the birthday party, it's about a pattern, I interrupted. A pattern of making me feel less important, less valued than Emma and her family. That's not true, Mom protested. We love both our daughters equally. Maybe you do, I acknowledged. But you don't treat us equally. And now that I have my own child, I can't accept that anymore. What are you saying? Dad asked, his voice strained. I'm saying that James and I deserve better. We deserve to be prioritized, to be valued, to be respected. We do respect you, Mom insisted. Your actions say otherwise, I replied calmly. And actions matter more than words. What do you want from us? Dad asked. I want you to understand how deeply you hurt me. I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong. And I want things to change going forward. We're sorry you felt hurt, Mom began. No, I shook my head. That's not an apology. That's deflecting responsibility. My parents exchanged glances. You're right, Dad said finally. We made a bad choice. We should have been there for you. Mom nodded slowly. We got so caught up in not disappointing Dylan that we didn't think about how it would affect you. It's not just about that day, I explained. It's about years of feeling second best. And now I need to protect James from feeling that way too. What can we do? Mom asked, her voice small. You can start by respecting my boundaries. When I invite you to be part of James's life, I need to know you'll be fully present. Not checking your phones for updates from Emma. Not leaving early for something at her house. We can do that, Dad nodded. And I need time, I added. Time to rebuild trust. Of course, Mom said, reaching for my hand. I let her take it. I'm not cutting you out, I clarified. I want James to have grandparents who love him. But things need to change. Mark appeared in the doorway with James, who had woken from his nap. Someone's looking for his mom. As I took my son, I saw my parents watching with a new awareness in their eyes. He's the most important person in my world, I told them, and I'll never let him doubt that. I hope you can be the kind of grandparents who make him feel just as important. We will, Mom promised, her eyes filling with tears. We want to do better, Mabel. Then that's where we start, I said, looking down at my son's trusting face. One day at a time. The following Sunday, I was surprised when my parents canceled their regular brunch with Emma to come help us set up James's nursery. We thought you might need an extra set of hands, Dad said, already assembling the crib while Mom organized the tiny clothes. Emma wasn't happy, Mom admitted. But we told her that we needed to balance our time better between both our families. I watched them work, still cautious but feeling a glimmer of hope. Thank you for being here. A month later, Emma called me. We need to talk, she said without preamble. Mom and Dad are acting weird. They keep canceling plans with us to be with you guys. They're not canceling to be with us, I explained. They're dividing their time more evenly. There's a difference. Well, Dylan misses them, she complained. I'm sure he does, I said. Just like I missed them at countless events growing up. There was a long pause. I never realized, she said finally. I never thought about how it looked from your side. It's not about taking sides now, I told her. It's about everyone being treated fairly. In the weeks that followed, my parents proved their words with actions, showing up when they said they would, being fully present, making James a priority. Our relationship wasn't magically healed, but it was evolving into something healthier, something based on mutual respect. Even Emma was making an effort, suggesting we coordinate family events so neither of our children felt overlooked. It was a small step, but a meaningful one. Do you think they've really changed? Mark asked one evening as we watched my parents playing with James on the living room floor. I think they're trying, I replied. And that's all I can ask for. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to say, I deserve better. And sometimes, when we stand firm in that truth, others rise to meet us there. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to reset boundaries with family members who took you for granted?